Hi, I'm Kirby with Augustine E-Bikes. And for the last several months, I've been traveling around the country visiting family and friends, so I haven't published any new videos on our channel in several months. I'm now back and excited to share a whole new series of videos with our YouTube audience. Now, this may not be the sexiest topic, but if you're an e-bike rider, whether you ride kits or you ride manufactured e-bikes, brakes are hugely important. So in this video, what I'm going to do is just show you how to replace disc pads on a disc brake. Now, there's lots of different types of disc brakes, but this is pretty standard. I'm going to run you through the basics of how to replace the disc pads for a disc brake. Now, I go through about 4 to 5 times the number of pads per year that I do on a normal bike, and that's because it's a heavier bike, a lot more power. You need a lot more stopping power when you're going at higher speeds. But I can't tell you how important it is to make sure that your brakes are really fully functional and operational. So let's get to it. The first thing you want to do is remove the brake itself. So I basically unscrew the 2 screws that are bolted into the frame, bring that out, and then pop open the brake itself and take a look inside. And I can already see that it's pretty worn, and I'll show you when I pull out the pads. So what I want to do is remove the pads from the brake. And the way I know that the brake pads are getting low is because I can start to hear them squeaking, which means there's more metal to metal. So the more metal to metal sound means your brake pads are running low. So the first thing I have to do is remove the cotter pin. Now, the cotter pin is one way of doing it. There's screws, there's all sorts of adjustments for locking in the brake pad, but mine always come with cotter pins, so handy little device. And as you can see, these are pretty well worn. There's a little bit of brake left in them, but it's pretty much down to metal. So what I really want to do is replace them with a new brake pad. And because I go through so many per year, I tend to buy these in bulk online. It's a lot cheaper than going to a bike store. I love local bike shops, but when it comes to things like brake pads, I'm paying about 1/3 the price that I would if I bought as many in a bike shop. So now what you want to do is take the new brake pads, slip them into the metal sleeve, and make sure it's nice and tight. Sometimes I have to tighten it down with a pair of pliers just so it'll fit into the brake itself. And then there's a very specific way it slips into the brake. Make sure it slips smoothly so that you line up the hole so you can stick the cotter pin in that secures the brake pads. Once you've done that, slip the cotter pin in, the new cotter pin, bring it all the way through, and then use your needle nose pliers to just bend the one bar of the cotter pin back so that it doesn't pull out. This way it locks the brake pads into your brake. Now you're ready for the next 2 steps. Now this next step is important and tricky a little bit. What happens is once you take the brake off, the pistons retract. So once you put the new pads in, what you need to do is spread the pistons apart so that you can fit it over the disc brake. And the way to do this is with a big flathead screwdriver. So what you want to do, I typically have a thin screwdriver which I open up and pry open the brake pads a little bit just to get the big flathead in there. And then once you get the big flathead in, you want to pump it back and forth so the pistons go back to their original place. This gives you enough distance so that you can slip the brake pads over the disc rotor and reattach the brake to the bike frame. Once you've done this, leave a little bit of slack in the brake so it's not completely tight, because we're going to tighten it as we adjust the brake, and I'll show you in a second. But one of the things I want to show you is that I use a big nut, as a washer to give me a little bit more tight when I screw in the nut. But it works great. It's a really tight fit because the front brake is super important. They're both important, but really the front brake for quick stopping. So I had a little bit more space with that washer. Squeeze the brake levers on the handlebar, on your front brake handlebar, while you're tightening the front brake. This way, what it does with that little bit of lax there is it gives you the even positioning of exactly where the brake is before you tighten it, and then give it a really, really tight pull, whether you're doing with a hand Allen wrench or using a drill like I do. And there you have it. We've replaced the disc pads in under 5 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to making more videos for you coming up. Thanks so much.